Welcome back to We Married the Family, the place for all your in-law issues, questions, and explorations as a daughter-in-law and as a couple. In today's episode, we'll be taking a look into the ways that your relationships with your in-laws can infiltrate your psychic space. When I say psychic space, I'm referring to your inner landscape, your subconscious. One way that your psyche connects you with your subconscious mind is through your dreams. I absolutely love this realm. It's so sacred and wise beyond anything that we can comprehend, and is constantly purging and integrating emotional material without you even doing anything. But it can be a frightening place too, a place that's full of your inner demons that you try and shut away. And sometimes this is where your in-laws show up. I know for most of you, these will feel like nightmares, but it's not all doom and gloom. Some nightmares and reoccurring dreams might point you towards personal or collective trauma. Either way, your dream life holds an abundance of information and gifts for you. Some of you might be living with in-laws, so you're face-to-face with the people in your dreams, and it can be hard to separate the dream or nightmare from the person in the home. But listening to this episode will hopefully facilitate that for you. Some of you might be carrying your in-laws with you even if you're away from them. If you're staying at your parents' or you're on holiday, even if you've moved out 20 years ago or have separated from your partner 5 years ago, physical proximity doesn't reflect your emotional and psychic space. Whatever people, places, or things show up in your dreamscape aren't random or coincidental. They often represent something to you for your developmental journey, and it's your psyche's way of guiding you towards greater awareness, usually, about yourself and the way that you're living your life. In-laws can often represent something to do with the collective structures that you're in, not specifically the individual members of your in-laws and who they are as people. But when they show up, they're just the face of the concept or idea, like cultural traditions and norms, ideas and values around duty or obligation. One of the daughter-in-laws on my page shared that whenever she goes to her mum's, she has a reoccurring nightmare that her mother-in-law is calling her for chores. So even though she's away from her, she's still connected to her. I would wonder whether this daughter-in-law is feeling guilty about potentially disobeying societal expectations. Is she feeling shoehorned into roles that she doesn't want? Is she losing her strength and autonomy? Is she confronting cultural pressures? As we go through the episode, I want you to have a think about what kind of dreams you've had about your in-laws recently. Do you notice when they show up in your dreams? What is usually going on and what kind of themes are emerging during those times? Are there certain events or incidents that are repeating themselves? What sort of feelings come up for you in the dream? Some dreams are more clear and straightforward, like a woman who dreams that she's walking around her in-laws' house trying to find privacy, but every door that she opens and room that she enters, she sees members of her in-laws' family. Obviously, this might point to her struggling to find privacy for herself in her waking life. She could be trying to implement boundaries but struggling with it. It could indicate that there's little room for herself outwardly and inwardly because so much of her mental, psychic, and emotional energy is being taken up by her in-laws or being given to her in-laws. In-laws can also show up when your psyche is finding equilibrium. For example, someone who is outwardly quite nervous and appeasing despite feeling resentful, even if she doesn't know consciously that she's feeling resentment, might have dreams of being very angry with her in-laws. This is your dream speaking through contrast. When this happens, your dream will show you the opposite of what is true in waking life because your psyche is trying to compensate for the imbalance in your behaviors and attitudes. A daughter-in-law who is extroverted, who dreams of being physically tied up by her in-laws, suggests how confined she's feeling. It's not necessarily about an external person in particular. More often, dream symbols represent parts of ourselves. So in this example of the extroverted daughter-in-law being tied up in the dream, the person doing the tying could represent the part of her who is afraid to be herself, the part of her that's trying to keep her controlled by keeping her in one place and tied down. It could also be a collective representation. Is she feeling tied down by obligations that are being forced onto her? Is she becoming hostage to the disempowerment through misogyny and patriarchy? Is she doing that to herself, perhaps, by conforming to things that go against her own nature and values? Your in-laws in your dream are more often your symbolic representations trying to speak to you rather than it being a dream about that person themselves. For example, your in-laws or a particular member of your in-laws might symbolize authority. It doesn't mean your dream is necessarily about that person, but about how you relate in general to people you see as being figures of authority. So if you experience your mother-in-law as someone who's controlling or holds authority in your life, she might appear in your dream as the symbol for authority, which evokes in you the younger part of yourself that maybe struggled with parental control as a child, or the part of you that struggled with discipline and boundaries as a teenager. If you took that dream at face value, you'll probably be quite anxious, maybe angry or avoidant of your mother-in-law when you wake up the next day. But if you take a step back and reflect, you could ask yourself, am I fearful of authority? Am I fearful of my own authority? Which younger part is looking to develop here? Does this authoritative figure remind me of anyone else from my past? Is there a part of you that has regressed into childlike behaviors and needs to come back to her adult self? Our old wounds can be disturbed by new relationships, including the relationships with our in-laws. Your in-laws can also represent parts of yourself in relation to each other. Some of these parts might have been unconsciously cast aside or disowned. In Jungian psychology, these are projections of your shadow. So a critical mother-in-law in a dream might represent the part of you which is being self-critical. Are you telling yourself at some level that you're not good enough? Or if you see your father-in-law in your dream and he's larger than life or very small, that could be pointing to excessive or suppressed masculine energy within yourself. Maybe you're at your childhood home and your in-laws are crowding the space. Is there possibly a lack of internal space for you to grow emotionally? These dreams might be inviting you to look at how you're navigating power dynamics, roles, and dependency in your own life. You can take the learning and information from your dreams to change how you're showing up consciously. It might be that you have a change in perception, or you change an attitude or belief or a behavior. It's also really common to dream about animals. Sometimes there are animals that come to us even in relation to in-laws. Animals are such powerful and sacred symbols. I have a lot of dreams of animals. Actually, a funny one I can share is that one night when I was doing some research on AI and playing around with some platforms for quite a few hours actually into the night because it's such a huge and weird world. But that night I dreamt that a group of raccoons had jumped into the house from the loft, that they stole something from the room and then jumped out of the window. I've never had dreams of raccoons before, so I immediately linked it to my activity that night. And obviously, raccoons, just looking at them, they look like they're wearing masks, like bandits, which was quite an obvious representation of the false and illusory world of AI. But one of you shared that when your sister-in-laws were causing havoc in your marriage, you used to dream a lot about snakes. I've also heard about sister-in-laws and foxes. Snakes we usually have an initial fearful reaction to. It's like a warning to not get bitten or poisoned, or that there are venomous people around you. In another context, a snake can represent the shedding of something, so I wonder if this daughter-in-law was living with in-laws and then moved out due to family issues, or if she shed unhealthy ways of relating to family members or even let go of certain relationships. And just like snakes, people need to shed the old skin to become something new. With the example of foxes, this daughter-in-law had a handful of dreams that she noticed occurred after having spent some time with her sister-in-laws, where she was vulnerable and open. Foxes are known for their sly and cunning ways, and an indication possibly to not trust the person you were spending time with that day, or that there's someone around you who's not being genuine. I will say, don't take anything I'm saying in this episode as a black and white, hard and fast rule for your own dreams, by the way. These are just insights, reflections, and suggestions. Dreams are a huge gateway to connect with your subconscious, and they're very unique to you as an individual, so always look at them from your own personal perspective. Your relation to the dream image is going to be unique to you, and although a symbol can represent more than one thing, you will know what resonates with you the most. So any type of dream inquiry requires that you feel into things rather than just analyzing or intellectualizing it, because what's true for one person isn't going to be true for you. If you keep track of your dreams, you'll notice patterns over time that make it easier to sort of be in a relationship with your dreams. But the more that you pay attention to your dreams, the more likely that you're going to dream more. So don't try and grasp every single one. Hold them lightly and hone in on one or two symbols or reoccurring dreams to begin with. I often hear people, especially from the Muslim community, dismissing dreams and relegating them to things that aren't worth paying attention to. But God doesn't create anything in this world without purpose and service. And actually, if we're not paying attention to our dreams, don't be surprised that they're becoming more frightening or loud. And that's not necessarily because your in-laws are evil or that there's an evil entity trying to get you, but it's your subconscious getting louder to get your attention. And sometimes you might not dream at all, and this could be for various reasons. But again, if we're not having any inquiry or interacting with our dreams, the dreams are not going to show up as much as they would if we're actually welcoming them and paying attention to them. In the interconnected ecosystem of life, dreams play a huge role. There's so many examples of prophets who listened to their dreams and interpreted their dreams and dreams of other people. And the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, also used to gather his companions after the morning prayer and ask about their dreams. It is a whole world in itself, and you can track and record your dreams so you get a real sense of what themes are emerging and what's most prominent at a certain period in your life, and what those dreams might be pointing you towards. And remember that you're not trapped by your in-laws, especially not in your dream world. Rather than just focusing on them and projecting whatever you see in your dream onto that person in waking life, you can learn to see them as keys to deepening your relationship with yourself. You can use something called active imagination to engage with your dream figures and symbols. Give yourself some time in a quiet space and bring a dream figure to mind. You can ask it or them who they are, what it's here to show you, what it wants to tell you. Let yourself be open and curious and respect what comes up without creating your own narrative or judgments around it. Next time you dream about your in-laws, keep the bigger picture in mind. They and their house are not saying that they're the wrong ones for you. They're here to show you something, not necessarily about moving out, but about moving deeper within. If you've benefited from today's episode, do like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you've been affected by anything that's discussed in today's episode and you'd like to work together, you can join my daughter-in-law's membership or book in for one-to-one or couples therapy with myself or another therapist.